Hello everyone, welcome back to the part 4 of the lecture 2. So this lecture series is basically on the giving effective responses to the reviewers comments. So we have already talked about the how important the reviewers comments are, how important is the fact that we should give response back to reviewers correctly or effectively. So this lecture series we are covering various things that are related to the reviewers comments, like starting from the process of peer review, then how the different kinds of peer reviews process are going on, then what are the different kinds of comments, positive comment, negative comments, and the different kinds of constructive comments, different kinds of destructive comments, and some unnecessary comments. So we have talked about many things that have been going through the entire revision process. So we also understood that this revision process or reviewers comments are not singleton. That means we generally do not get only one reviewers comments. So we get many reviewers comments and also from many reviewers. And this things is not a single time process. Some journals have a revision of 3 to 4 times, 5 times. So you have to be prepared for all kinds of questions from all the reviewers, and there are 2, 3, 4, 5 reviewers can be there, 6 reviewers can be there in a single paper review. So that is first is a major review, then again major review, then minor review, then minor review. 4 to 5 times is very common for a very good paper. So the more the journal believes that the more the paper undergoes a review, the paper actually improves a bit. So whenever you are getting more and more revisions, it is more likely that the paper will be accepted. So in the last lecture, we have understood that how the reviewers' comments are important to be addressed in all kinds of questions. Like different questions are categorized as positive, negative, constructive, destructive, and irrelevant comments. So now we will see the real examples of different reviewers' comments and how to answer them. So in the last lecture, I have taught you about how to tackle the different kinds of comments and how you can prepare for that. But in this lecture, I will give you a real examples from my own experience, from the reviewers that the comments that I received in all through my life. So I've selected a few reviews. I cannot show you all. So I've selected a few reviews, so which are being portrayed over here, and the most potential answer that you should give to the reviewers comments for getting a better response next time. So let's see with one by one example. First, start with a reviewer one comment samples. So here I will show you some 5 to 6 or 7 sample comments, which seems very important and very constructive as well as destructive in terms of the paper's future in terms of acceptance or rejections. So you have to be very careful. So here I will read out one by one sample comment, and I will read out one by one sample responses. I will explain you also. So first, the comment number 1. The methodology section lacks sufficient detail to replicate the experiment. So this comment is a kind of negative comments, but it's constructive. That means it's a negative comment, but the reviewer is asking us to change the methodology, to change the experiment section again, and reframe it and improve it. So we are getting some chance to do that. So how will you respond back? We will respond that thank you reviewer for their feedback and comment. We provide a comprehensive explanation of the methodology, including step 1, step 2, step 3, blah blah things, and we have used this kind of materials in our revised manuscript, and we have used these tools, we have used this software for the processing and data analysis, and also we are adding a new flowchart or new algorithm for your understanding. So this kind of when we are giving like this kind of uh, review comments, we actually are answering them and defending them in a way that the revised version of the methodology does not lack any kinds of detailing. So we are revising the thing. Now let's see the second comment. So when we see the second comment, we can see that the reviewer is asking the conclusion does not align with the results presented in the manuscript. This is also a very important comment, not common, important comment, because this question is very important for a reviewer to judge a paper. Because, for example, I review a lot of papers and I used to get a request from the editor, a request from the journal office that you should consider this point. And the point is the conclusion are properly drawn from the results, or the results can integrate to new findings, or are the title or the abstract or the introductions are aligned with the conclusion. So these kind of things are very important for the journal to know. So that's why the journal enforce the reviewers to understand this comment. The comment is the conclusion does not align with the results presented in the manuscript. This does not mean the conclusion section. Okay, be clear. What is the bad mistake that everyone does is that they change the conclusion section. No, the reviewer is not concerned about the conclusion section. You can write conclusion section, you may not write the conclusion section. You can keep the section same. But here the reviewer wants to know how you interpret your results. Okay, that's more important because maybe you get 2 plus 2, 4. How you say 4 to the community of neuroscience, to the community of computer science, to the community of historical studies, how will you say 2 plus 2, 4? So 2 plus 2 is 4 is a value just, right? So how will you portray that result, the 4, to the community? So that is the actual interpretation. So here the reviewer actually asking for the contribution in terms of the interpretation of results. So that will portray the main contribution of the study. So very careful about answering this comment. So first you appreciate the reviewer's observation and thank them that they have given you the opportunity to revise this thing, and clarify the link between results and conclusion in the revised manuscript. If you have not done yet, try to rewrite the discussion section. So how to deal with that? Rewrite the discussion section and reframe again, considering the results that you obtained. So the results you are getting, and taking one by one results answers, I mean the output, and then match it with the domain knowledge. So it's like from the theory back to the theory. So you have to, from the theory, you have to understand the gap, you have to make some hypotheses, objectives, do some experiments, getting the results, and now you have to validate these results back to the theory. So these things is the connection. So they want to know the link between the results and the conclusion you are drawing. So you have to very careful in that answer. Okay, discuss any additional analysis or interpretation that support the revised conclusion. So you can add more pictures, more results, you can add more analysis in terms of graphs, charts, or any kinds of flow chart, any kinds of algorithm. You can show anything, any visualization also to support your results, which matches your conclusion. And conclusion does not mean the conclusion section. Conclusion means your interpretation of your paper. Now, next comment. Next comment is the literature reviews is outdated and lacks recent references. This is a common comment. Most of the reviewers try to check that whether the author has reviewed the recent papers. Recent papers means from the last 3 years. If it is 2023, then 21, 22, 23. 3 year, last 3 years paper are there or not. Last, so there is some point like some window, some 3 years window, 5 years window, 10 years window. So 3 years window is like 2001 to 2023. 5 years window is like 2019 to 2023, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So you have to be cite, you have to be read the paper, you have to be cite it carefully in a flow, in coherence matter, so that your reference section should have at least 30% of the papers from the last 3 years. So this is, there is no thumb rule although, but it should be understood that at least 30% of the papers should be from the recent studies. Why these recent studies are important? Because every day the people are enriching their knowledge. Every day the different studies are going on in the world. So when we read a new paper, we understand something new, and people research something new. So when we understand and read more and more papers, specifically the recent papers, we understand the most advanced knowledge. So if we study something from 2001 and we know, okay, that's the result, we have, there is nothing done after that, and you do something now and you say, yes, I have done it, but you check that it has already been done in 2004, after 2001. So you have to be careful and read the last 3 years paper and last 5 years paper very precisely, and keep in mind that you should cite at least 30% of the you should have the 30% of your papers in the reference section from the last 3 years. So when the reviewer asks that the literature review is outdated and it lacks recent references, you have to be careful and answer it carefully. So you acknowledge the reviewer's comments, conduct again an updated literature review. So it's not like that you have a 1.5 page of literature review and you quickly read some papers of last 3 years and add it at the end. No, that's the end of your paper. That's the total rejection of your paper, because new literature should not be added at the end of the literature review. It should be mixed with the entire literature review. That means when this comment you are getting, you have to rewrite the entire literature review section, entire related work section again. So you have to again reformat with chronologically or contextually and arrange all the literature, add more literature which are of current years, and make a validation point, finding gaps from the old paper and new paper, and frame it correctly. So this is how the literature review section works. So when you are being asked to add the new literature, in that you have to rewrite the entire related work again. Now comes the next comment. The next comment is very easy to do. It says the figures and tables are difficult to interpret. This means sometimes what we do, we just put figures, we just put tables in the paper with caption, but we never explain that. That's what the readers are very troublesome while reading your paper. So when you are giving any kinds of figure, when you are giving any kinds of diagram in your paper, or whether you are portraying any kinds of table in your paper, maybe a result table, maybe a data table, maybe a preliminary study table, whatever it is, whenever you are giving any kinds of table, any kinds of figures in the or diagram in the paper, try to explain it carefully, try to explain it in detail while writing. So that thing should not be right in the caption part, but it should be right in the text, in the main body of the text. So for example, if you are adding the figures of charts and graphs and tables of results, then you should explain that in the result section as well as in the discussion section, that what this figure, what this table actually signifies. You should not write this table shows the result of the outcome. No, you should very detailed, you should describe it with a very detailed way. This result shows the outcome of the experiments, because we have taken these experiments and the column number 1 this showing this, column number 2 shows this is the emphasized results, and all these things you should describe it very carefully. So first thank the reviewer for their feedback, and then revise the figures and table to enhance the clarity and ensure that all the labels and legends and captions are very concise and informative. Do not write this much caption. Caption should be very short and explanation should be in the main body of the text. Next is the review number 5. So in this review, I told you it's a content, it's not a content related review, but it's a language related review. So sometimes the reviewer asks that the language and writing style needs improvement. So this is a very common question, like people generally want to have a very good English, very good grammar quality. So you can do one thing. You can check your paper with a big professor, with a good scientist, with a good researcher, or a native English speaker who is very good in English, and you can clarify them that what changes you require. You can clarify them what improvement you want, and you pay attention to the grammar, syntax, and the sentence structure. So you correct all the English error, all the mistakes, all the grammar, and you resubmit the paper. So what happens sometimes if you do not do that? Journal accept your paper with special consideration. What is special consideration? They consider that if you are not improving the language and still the paper is accepted, then they will ask you for some money, and that money is a editing service. So every journal publishing house has their own English editing services, like Elsevier, Springer, everyone, and they have the team of expert there. They try to read your paper, understand your paper, and convert in a very good quality academic writing paper. So this is how actually it works. So basically, I suggest you to stick to your own paper and try to improve it with your friends, colleagues, professor, or someone who is a very good researcher, and take help from them. You can add them as a co-author also if they have contributed a considerable amount to your work, and resubmit the paper. Next comment is the discussion section comment. It says the discussion section lacks critical analysis and fails to compare finding with existing literature. What does it mean? This means that your study is not has not been compared with the other studies, because it is important. Whenever I'm saying that my results is the best till now, is the first time till now, or is the most advanced results, so this kind of words that I'm writing in my paper are comparative. This kind of results or words cannot be spoken as easily as I'm telling now. So whenever you are writing that we get the best result or we get the better result, so what we have to do, we have to compare that results with the all other related studies. Generally, all other means at least 5 to 6 recent studies, not the studies in 1990, 1995, or 1998. Not the studies, the studies which happened in the last 3 years window. So you have to compare your study with the last 3 years window with terms of the different evaluation metrics, accuracy, F1 score, precision, recall, and all these things. What are whatever the percentage, and if anything, blah blah. You have the evaluation metrics. Compare them with that paper. Compare with your paper. Make a table and then discuss. And now you have to critically analyze this table. So you can say that my score, my accuracy is 97%, but in the last 3 years ago, there is a paper which scores 98%. Although that accuracy is high, then why my paper will be published? Because I have done something else. So you have to defend, you have to analyze critically that why your paper is better than others' paper, why your work is more worthful than other papers, why it is a potential, why your paper has a potential to be published. So you have to sell your paper. You have to critically analyze and make and prove the strength of your paper comparing to the other studies. Now comes the comment. It is very interesting comment, because sometimes two or more reviewers ask question which actually conflicting. So whenever they are asking any question, so for example, the reviewer ask a question number 1 to redo experiment. The question number 2, the reviewer number 2 ask a question to remove that experiment. So what you will do now? Will you keep the experiment and redo and add more? And the reviewer to say that experiment is completely irrelevant, just remove it in the paper. So what you will do? It's called the handling conflicting situation from reviewer's comment recommendation. And this is very often it happened. And it's a very dangerous situation when the reviewer asks for opposing revisions. So what you do? So you have to access the validity and relevance of each reviewer suggestion based on manuscript, objective and research question. So do not start with anyone's reviewer work. So first read all the review. If you think that there is a conflicting question between any two reviewer or any three reviewers, then you immediately try to understand what is best for your paper, what you can actually do on your paper. So that's more important. So whenever you understand that what is doable, what you can actually do to your paper, then if you think that the experiment can be redone, experiment can be again improved, then you stick to the reviewer who has asked you to address that issue, and defend the reviewer who has asked to remove the experiment. So you have to be very much, how can I say, like a kind of diplomatic in this way, and you have to answer them very carefully. So uh, try to understand the relevance of each reviewer suggestions and match them with your paper's objective or aim. So you analyze the potential impact of implementation, each suggestion on the overall quality and integrity of the research. Then consider a compromise or provide a balanced answer. That means you can compromise in something, or you can answer it in a very balanced way, but politely, that takes into account the different perspective, aiming to address the concern raised by the both reviewers without compromising the scientific rigor of the study. If one reviewer is asked to remove the entire experiment and the other reviewer is asked to enrich that experiment, and you think that the experiment is very much needed in that paper, you should keep that in the experiment, you should not remove that, then you cannot tell the reviewer that I should not accept your suggestion to remove it because I want it to be there. Do not write like that. You have to be very diplomatic, very constructive to your points of validation, that why this experiment is needed and why you are still want to keep it. You can ask more suggestion from the reviewer, that if you have any more suggestion so that this experiment looks better, this experiment looks relevant in the paper, please suggest me, I'll do that. So this way you are actually keeping the experiment, you are actually improving the experiment, and also stopping that reviewer to blame you to remove that experiment. So this way you have to handle it very carefully. This is a very tricky situation which we often face. So now, before we end our lecture, so let us quickly see what are the do's and don'ts for during answering the reviewers' comments. So do express gratitude to the reviewers for their time, effort, and valuable feedback. Do respond to each comment individually, demonstrating that you have carefully considered and addressed each concern. Do provide a clear, concise, point-by-point response in the response letter, indicating the changes made in the revised manuscript. Do highlight the change made in the revised manuscript to assist the reviewer in identifying the modification. What you don't need to do, be careful about that. Don't be defensive or argumentative in your responses. So do not do any argument, do not arise argument, do not defend your answer, or do not blame the reviewer for telling you anything wrong. So you maintain a professional and uh, respectful link between your paper and his or her answer. So don't ignore or dismiss any of the reviewer's comments. Each comment should be addressed, even you are not sure that which is fully correct. So you have to answer it very mindfully, very tactfully, if they are even asking you to do something wrong. Don't compromise the integrity and quality of your paper. So that's I'm telling you repeatedly, that even if the reviewer asks you to do something very silly, to change your paper, which actually you think that will change the paper drastically, will weaken your paper, then don't compromise your integrity and quality of the paper. So you answer the reviewer very mildly and show them that why you want to keep it. Show them the reason the validation or the validity of the work you have done, and try to wait for the next comment. And finally, don't exceed the word limit of your responses. Be concise and focused on your explanation. So do not write one-page answer to each question. Make it concise, precise to your points, and make it very perfect. So what are the necessary documents or the items you need to be submit during revision? One thing is the revised manuscript, entire paper after making the changes. Two, the revised manuscript in a PDF form with the highlighted. That means one is a Word file or LaTeX file, which has no highlighting but is improved. One, the same PDF version of that paper and with highlighting yellow on all the line, all the section, all the figures, all the tables, which you have newly added, only newly added, okay? Then the response letter. The response letter is the letter you write to the editor-in-chief that you are thanking the reviewer for the insightful comments, and one by one comment and answer, one comment, one answer, like this. Then you have to prepare all the supporting documents like data, tables, figures, charts, and everything. And finally, you have to prepare the copyright transfer form, because if the paper get accepted in a subscription based journal, then you have to transfer the copyright right to, the copyright to the publisher itself. So you don't have any right on that paper. So these things are very important things during the resubmission. So please take care of these documents during resubmission. So this is the end of the lecture 2 on the revision uh, um, on the tricks to answer the reviewers' comments. I hope you have understood well in the part 1 to part 4. And if you still have any question, anything you need to ask, anything you need to collaborate, if you want to join my lab, you can visit my lab page. If you want to contact me anyway, you can contact me on my email ID. And please try to write well, decent, and very good journal papers, and try to publish it more often. So I wish you all the best, and thank you so much for listening to this lecture. If you have any feedback or anything, you can contact me. Thank you. Bye bye.